Ever wondered how many people the killers of Dead by Daylight have actually killed? Hey everyone, and let's find out today. Trapper. Evan is a case of not having many direct noted kills, aside that of his father. His major contributing factor to his kill count is when he massacres his workers by causing a mining cave-in, killing them all, with over 100 men being led down into the mines before being caved off. Evan's own mistreatment of his workers prior likely led to a substantial number of deaths also from the poor working conditions too. So the number is into the hundreds, 100 plus let's say, but probably closer to 200 or 300. Wraith. Wraith is responsible for the deaths of just 5 people by means of direct killing. Philip is young, and during his home country's civil war, his motherly figure, Fernanya, is horribly killed by soldiers. Philip finds these soldiers and burns them, with there being 5 in total. Later, when he is older and lives in Virginia, he unknowingly kills possibly into the hundreds of people by operating the Wrecker's Yard Crusher. Each time he did this, there was someone inside, which his boss AZHYMOVS was paid to disappear. So it's a bit debatable if these crusher kills should count for Philip. I would argue no, and they should really be on AZHYMOVS' tally if anything. Billy. Billy's most notable kills are those of his parents, Max and Evelyn Thompson, as well as the sheriff and 9 deputies in the Tome Law, this making up the events of the Coldwind Farm massacre. Billy is then further noted to have killed another farmer in an Arca entry, meaning Billy probably ventured out a bit from the farm and did cause more death. We can see by his outfits a number of innocent workers who were killed. I think his count is higher therefore than just the deputies, sheriff, and his parents. Nurse. Nurse is responsible for a number of deaths, with her murdering the entirety of the Crotus Pren asylum patients and staff. These include the warden, Patrick Spencer, the bad man, Mary the anxious girl, the catatonic boy, Nurse Morris, Harvey the fat orderly, and Father Campbell in his chapel. In her Tome Law, she also begins killing patients prior to her massacre with a poison, along with the woman who manipulates her, the Broken Woman. Her total kills are far higher though, once she massacres the entire asylum. Myers kills a total of 5 people during Halloween night 1978, 4 being teenagers and 1 being the guy he stole his jumpsuit from. Hag. Lisa is another unclear case. She is responsible for the deaths of her captors. However, we can't nail down the exact number there were. We know of the village Deaf Boy, Grandma, and Butcher. We know of these 3 members out of the whole village though. I believe it was likely at least about 25 people though, with their capability to capture people with ease, and based on the size of the main pantry shack, it had to be a somewhat sustained community. Lisa may have also killed people later on as the Hag, as she didn't go to the realm right away seemingly, therefore this number could be even higher. Doctor. Herman is a character we honestly have no clue about. We know of a few deaths prior to his recruitment to Larry's. We also know the named character of Otto Stamper was killed by Herman's hand also. We don't really know any other specific people though, with the rest being prisoners sent to the Institute for Herman to extract information from, as well as probably a few other workers there. Larry's looks like quite a big place, and Doctor worked there for likely over a decade, meaning I think he's probably responsible for deaths easily into the high hundreds, maybe even the thousands. Huntress. Huntress is another character with a really unclear number, but probably a very high one. We see her kill a number of soldiers during her lore, as well as more that are described to be killed, as well as entire towns or villages raided. Huntress is also known as the apex predator of the woods for probably a few decades too, meaning she's racked up a high number over this time. I think her kill count is genuinely in the high hundreds also, possibly into the thousands. Bubba. Bubba is responsible for the deaths of 4 people during the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, these being all of Sally's friends and her brother Franklin. This number is inevitably higher however, with the Sawyer family likely doing this for a long time, and there being a considerable number of bones throughout the house. Freddy. Freddy has 4 direct kills throughout the 2010 remake, with him primarily targeting his previous victims at Badham, also killing Nancy's mother at the end. Based on the school photo though, and the possibility he killed more after, I think it's probably a bit higher than just these. Pig. Amanda's first kill is during her own jigsaw trial, where she retrieves her reverse bear trap key from another person's belly. She then goes on to kill Adam from the bathroom saw game, Then additionally Allison and Troy from further Saw games. Amanda rigs some of the games and gives the people no chance of surviving. Finally Lynn, who Amanda placed a shotgun collar on. Clown is responsible for a lot of deaths over the years, with him killing for seemingly his whole life from an early age, up to his current age of probably about 50 to 60. Despite his sloppiness, he managed to continue on throughout this time. We have his first kill noted when he is young, with him hiding a finger trophy in a cigar box. We then have a lack of evidence for many more, aside contextually, such as the 4 fingers around his waist, and additionally the 2 iridescent finger add-ons, making 7. In his tome lore, he's noted to kill a man with a moustache too, making 8. The total though, I believe, is probably decently higher. Spirit. Rin had some violent moments throughout her life, but never does she kill anyone before the realm. The one disputed kill is that of her father, after Rin makes an oath to the entity to serve it in exchange for his death. His death is never confirmed however, although there are hints to it possibly happening. Legion. Legion's main kill is Carl the Cleaner, a worker at Joey's old workplace, which they go back to vandalize and rob after he's fired. When Carl comes across Legion, they collectively kill him and bury him at Mount Ormond before entering the fog. Susie has a possible mention of a kill too in a New Year's cosmetic, but this is unconfirmed as a kill. Plague. Plague has a single confirmed kill, with this being the murder of her mentor, Haban. She does this after the entity whispers to her, and her faith is assured. After this, it is possible for her kill count to be higher however, as she does a number of sacrifices to try and appease her god to the entity. It's not clear whether she does these herself, but she certainly orders them. Therefore it's possible Plague is responsible for many more, possibly deaths into the hundreds. It's really just pure speculation though, there's no set number we can get. Ghostface. Ghostface is very hard to decipher, with him also having a lack of clear noting of each of his victims. In his tome lore, where he's just starting out though, he's referenced to have killed his own father, as well as a number of workers, at a local paper, which is what inspires him to take on the role of a writer himself for his own legend. In Roseville, his kills must amount to something quite substantial, with his add-on the address book listing all the addresses of his victims. We only see a double-page spread with 6 addresses, but it's surely a lot more full than just this, making his murders far more expansive and substantial. I think probably around the 50 mark. Demogorgon. Demo takes 6 people and kills 5 in the first season of the show. We don't know for sure which season DbD's Demo is from, but I'm going to go with this one for simplicity's sake. These people are Barbara, 2 scientists, and 2 residents of Hawkins, with the only survivor being Will. Oni. Another case of it really just being way too high to count to have clear evidence for anywhere close to an exact number. We have a few recounted during both his base and tome lore though. Oni travels across Japan wiping out the imposter samurai, which he is said to have done throughout many various locations, surely meaning his dark pilgrimage was incredibly thorough and long. He's also responsible for killing his father Renjiro, the lord who desecrated his name by calling him Oni Yamaoka, and further a substantial number of villagers at the lord's town. My estimate has always been into the thousands honestly, due to the way Oni is viewed as a literal demon within Japan, known far and wide. Deathslinger. Caleb is a little tough to judge, as it seems likely due to his role as a bounty hunter and job of retrieving inmates for the penitentiary, a lot of the people he hunted he didn't kill, as they had to be alive to be imprisoned. The deaths we do know of are Henry Bayshore and the prison warden, although even these two are by proxy more so than direct. He does definitely kill a guard on his way to them though, and when causing the riot. He's responsible for the massacre at Dead Dog Saloon 2, where we can find 5 bodies across the map. This number seems plausibly higher however. His initial test of his spear gun also results in him killing a man. He further kills a man in prison too. He does have the nickname the Deathslinger as well after this, and that must hold some meaning. It surely must mean more than just him killing that initial person, so we can surely round it up a bit to around 20 I reckon. This seems pretty likely based on how the tome lore goes. Pyramid Head. Interestingly, Pyramid Head never actually kills anyone, with him primarily being a means to help James process his guilt. In the realm he is of course adapted to being a much more violent executioner, However, before the realm, he never killed anyone, or any real person at least. Blight. Talbot is responsible for the deaths of hundreds during the Opium War. After his productivity serum fails and becomes deadly, Talbot is thrown into a mass grave filled with people who use the serum, where its noted deaths are into the hundreds. From here, Talbot's life sort of becomes a mess. He becomes obsessed with other dimensions, and his lore becomes very unclear and quite distorted throughout his perspective. It's quite possible he killed many more on top of these hundreds though, with him experimenting a lot with the serum, of which the early iterations were known to cause death due to its volatility. Talbot is likely responsible for a substantially high number of deaths. Twins. The first kills of the twins are by Victor, who burns 2 Black Veil members. After this, Victor dies though, and Charlotte is left alone. As we see during her tome lore, she definitely did cause a number of deaths in her attempts to survive and escape, but did her best to avoid combat if she could. So unclear, but maybe around 10, maybe 20 or something like that. Trickster. Trickster is noted to have left his 4 bandmates to die in the studio fire. Whilst this may sort of seem like a technicality with him not being responsible, I'd say he kind of is, due to his ability to save them but refusal to. He seals their fates. He kills a noted 4 other people too during his lore. However, I do think this number is far higher due to the public panic around his murders, and the fact that he has an entire vinyl of people's final sounds. He then murders all the Mighty One board members in his final act. This was likely around 10 people due to the size of Mighty One as a company. I think his total is around 20 overall. Nemesis. This may seem surprising, however as he hunts down stars, he fails to kill any in the remake version. As Raccoon City is largely evacuated at the time too, there isn't many people in the way whilst he pursues Jill either. He kills a helicopter pilot, 5 civilians in the subway, as well as the captain that Jill meets who sacrifices himself, the final one being Tyrell, Carlos's partner. Pinhead. Pinhead is only responsible for 2 that we know of. At the time he is taken, which is sometime during Hellraiser, he later goes on to kill a much greater number, but at the time of Hellraiser he just kills 2 during the film, these being Frank and Julia Cotton. The number is inevitably higher though, considering Pinhead served during the First World War as well, and has also been a Cenobite for some time, so I think 25, maybe even 50 plus. Artist. Kamina never shows signs of violent anger, and she's completely innocent throughout her life, making her debatably the most innocent out of any of the killers. Sadako kills 7 people during her Ringu run, and prior to the events of DbD. We hear of her killing a journalist to protect her mother, and then she also kills 6 others whilst down the well, including Yuichi's parents. During DbD, 2 students disappear, presumably from Sadako, and then later 4 vloggers, which causes Yuichi to go and hunt down Sadako. These vloggers are somewhat contested though, as it seems the vloggers may have been taken by the entity instead, with it being on an overlap, meaning Sadako probably is responsible for just the 9 deaths. Dredge. Dredge doesn't actually seem to kill anyone before the realm. It appears that the Garden of Joy, after all, once the residents have already finished fighting, and all that remains is a mess of body parts, blood, and death. Dredge just seems to consume it all, and even spares Otto Stamper, the cult's leader. It depends how you see it, 0 or probably a few thousand, depending on if you want to accredit Dredge, or if you just see Dredge as sort of a cleanup crew almost. Wesker. Wesker's kill count is incredibly unclear due to not having a direct recounting of his years of experimentation, which likely account for the majority of his kills whilst testing out things such as Ouroboros. He's known to be responsible more directly for the deaths of Spencer and Ixella, for example, but indirectly this number grows greatly, likely into at least 100 plus. It would have been into the billions if he did manage to release Ouroboros, but he doesn't succeed with this. Knight. Similar to Oni, Knight's kill count is probably absurdly high, and possibly even higher based on what we hear about him. There's a number of direct deaths stated throughout his lore, but much of the phrasing is very general as to what the specific number is. I would think it's likely substantially high though, with Tahos and the boys raiding entire villages, pillaging them, and leaving them destroyed. Knight is known as evil itself, and is surely responsible for many deaths. He further takes over Port Oscuro, imprisons Vittorio, and terrorizes the area. The final moments of his lore are spent fighting an entire army along with his boys, making his kill count incredibly high, more than likely. Skull Merchant. Skull Merchant likely has quite a high kill count, with her being responsible for the taking over and scrapping of many companies over the years as she grows in power and success. The true number is a little difficult to discern though. It's clearly fairly substantial though, noted to be done across the world in many locations. The final being in her home country of Brazil, the manager of a fireworks company. Adriana is responsible for the deaths of the leaders of all the companies she takes over and guts, which I imagine amounts to a number around the 50 mark. But really that's almost entirely just a guess, but that's sort of what I imagine her kill count to be at. Hux is part of the crew sent to the planet of Devaka. On this crew are primarily clones and other Hux units, described as a small crew. We get mention of 5 other Hux units that are killed by Hux, along with a security officer, Michael, science officer, Sarah, and Dimitri, the medical officer, as well as 6 other unnamed inhabitants, which Hux cuts the life support systems of, and 1 from crashing a vehicle. This totals 15 if we include the 5 Hux units, which I will add in here too, considering they had the capability to be sentient like Hux. Gabriel is the only survivor escaping into the entity's fog. Xenomorph. Xeno is born and kills 6 members of the Nostromo crew, with Ripley being the only person to survive it, along with Jonesy, with them escaping aboard an escape pod. Both Ripley and Xeno are taken around the same time, meaning Xeno's total is just 6. Chucky. Chucky is responsible for killing 11 different people during the first 2 films, with him being taken by the entity from the Good Guy factory in the second. He kills 4 in the first and 7 in the second. There are likely a number before these 2 however, but these are the ones we know of during the events of the films, so just 11. Unknown. As always with Unknown, it's unknown, but we can make a bit of an estimate. Unknown, after all, was terrorizing the town of Greenville for a substantial amount of time. It first seemed to surface during a seance in the 1800s, all the way to the current day. There's a few different disappearances we can piece together from its add-ons as well, but these only make up a handful to what must be far more, considering Unknown was fairly well known in Greenville, their reason for the town's strange occurrences. I think it's got to be at least about 100, likely hundreds I would say, maybe not quite scratching the 1,000 mark. Vecna. Vecna has a kill count surely into the billions, with him destroying and overthrowing entire worlds, which is a huge step up compared to most of the other killers who are on a much smaller scale. I feel like this one is sort of trivial to try and pick individual instances, as the number is so insanely high. Dracula. Dracula is likely responsible for deaths into the thousands, possibly tens or hundreds of thousands depending on your interpretation, in his attempts on various occasions to wipe out or punish humanity through destroying towns and villages as he did. The number likely amounts to something around here, considering the time frame in which he was doing this to. Houndmaster. Houndmaster's lore is very fuzzy in its kill count due to her being trapped on a mysterious island affected by an overlap, for a substantial amount of it and her adult life. On here she is constantly under threat from various monsters and attackers, meaning on here alone I do believe her kill count is likely into the hundreds minimum, but probably a lot higher and into the thousands. When Portia escapes the island, she is then said to have terrorized the Caribbean for decades in her search for Molac, her father's killer, with her frequently, additionally, murdering her own crew during this time too. Eventually Portia captures Molac and his son Tarek, killing Tarek but failing to kill Molac. Houndmasters must be quite high, I think. Kaneki. Kaneki is only responsible for killing his captor Jason after enduring his torture. We have this kill recounted in Kaneki's DbD lore entry too. Springtrap. William Afton is known to have killed 6 children prior to the events of Five Nights at Freddy's, with these being Gabriel, who later became Freddy, Jeremy, who became Bonnie, Susie, now Chica, and Fritz, now Foxy. There's also Cassidy or Golden Freddy. There's further a number of unknown children killed, totaling 5. Additionally, both Charlotte Emily and Afton's own daughter Elizabeth, making a total of 12. That's what I could find, at least, with some of these being a bit contested, and some additional ones suggested too. These were the most agreed upon I could find though. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed. Thanks, and goodbye.